Testing, testing. I think they had 14 penalties week one. Probably should have won that 49-0. They only won. And they played Natchez. I think Natchez was a little stiffer competition than I thought. And then our soccer team was playing West Valley. Won their opening game 18-0.
Oh,
They were supposed to play Ike. Ike backed out. So they picked up West Center. An hour later, Walla Walla called. We heard it. So the center comes over.
we did call or they had a little announcement that we made into the YouTube.
At one point, they had a kid in goal that just jumped
This is the beginning. All right, I'll have to call. Have to
and
play.
then Davis and on South. So
Hang in 5 years.
Is this on?
2 years. 2 years. That's UVSD.
Okay, it is 7 p.m., September 13th, Tuesday. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Dr. Finch, I think you said you had an announcement you'd like to make?
Yes, just like to welcome everyone here to the library and like to note that we are transitioning from Zoom to a YouTube live stream. And hopefully with this, we'll have less technical difficulties. This is the first time we've had a YouTube live stream for a board meeting, and we do not anticipate any technical glitches. However, we do ask for your patience as we transition to this new technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. All right, any changes to the agenda?
We actually have 2 additions for travel requests. We'll add number 8. It's Richard Pryor and a team of educators from the mid-level campus to go to Denver, October 18 to October 20 for a competency-based conference. And note that that would be funded by the grant that we've received from OSPI and the State Board of Education. Number 9, we will add Jill O'Brien in the high school volleyball team. That needs to be approved because it's an overnight trip. It's September 22nd to 24th, and it's to Spokane for a volleyball tournament. So we have out-of-state travel for Richard Pryor and in-state overnight with students for the volleyball tournament in Spokane.
All right, thank you, Dr. Finch. Communications, response to public comment.
I will start first with the response to public comment. At the school board meeting on August 23rd, a community member asked about the implementation of policy 3211 for gender inclusive schools. Here's the response. Facilities department has ordered signs for all schools that state a private restroom is available in the office. Principals report that they have worked individually with students and families to provide a private restroom and to provide a private changing area as needed for students in PE classes. Principals have been directed to add this information to the student handbook for each school. The district will publicize the letter to legislators from the 14th Legislative District, which was signed by all school board members. The letter requests financial assistance to change public restrooms to single-use restrooms, and the letter requests that any remodel of restrooms will not jeopardize the modernization funding schedule for schools. I did include the signed letter in the board packet under the superintendent report. And that concludes the response to public comment.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the same area, Dr. Finch, staff recognition.
Yes, is Tina Bowden here? I'm not sure. Okay, well, we wanted to recognize Tina Bowden, 31 years of service in West Valley. So we have a nice plaque for her and we'll make sure we get that to her. So appreciate Tina Bowden's service, 31 years to West Valley. So thank you to Tina.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item number 6 on the agenda, program presentation.
All right, we have an annual presentation. I'd like to start the school year with this each year with career and technical education. And this also does lead to action item later in the program. We have an action item for a approval of the strategic plan. And then we also have an action item approval of resolution for our career and technical education program for West Valley. So the program will give us information about career and technical education and have a chance for question and answer with the board. In addition, Jed Waters, who is our executive director for innovation in West Valley, he's leading a project for us that we're calling a portrait of a lifelong learner. There's other districts across the nation that are doing portrait of a graduate, but we felt like portrait of a lifelong learner would fit well with our mission statement with the district and also would really resonate with all grade levels. So, if you're an elementary teacher and you're thinking portrait of a graduate, does that necessarily apply to my work? But a portrait of a lifelong learner is really what we're working towards in West Valley. And so we want all students to be lifelong learners and all staff members as well. So appreciate Jed's work on that. And he's going to share some information about the timeline for that work. I think we'll go ahead and have the board join the audience so we can see the PowerPoint. Okay. So Jed, give us a chance here to transition to the audience.
No
Thank you.
problem. So the first few things that we'll do is we'll just kind of cover some of the initiatives and things that we accomplished last year in the CT and our college career readiness and other related initiatives. Then I'll kind of lead you into what we have planned for the next year, some updates that way. Those will be the 2 main slides that kind of fit along with some of the stuff in the strategic plan. I can answer questions on the strategic plan. And then after that, what we'll do is we'll walk through, as Dr. Finch said, our portrait of a lifelong learner. So kind of a review of last year, 2021, 2022. Innovation Center, that was brand new last year. So a big accomplishment. I think that hats off to, again, the many people, the school board here, administration, teachers that we call designers there, the innovators, a lot of the families, the people that took kind of this little step forward into jumping into this project with the district. And that kind of fits in the master-based learning grant and some of the work that we're doing that way. So we had our first group of 7th through 9th grade IT, computer science, STEM engineering students, and health science. And we welcomed a few new teachers or designers in this case to the program there. So a lot of success, a lot of good feedback from the community, a lot of students engaged in what we're doing. And that then also led into one of the initiatives over the summer that we'll cover with some construction. So the Innovation Center is really kind of leading some of the way in our master-based learning process and using Empower. So with that, a lot of it trying to work the standards that normally you'd see, just these standards in a math class, social studies class, and science, working to embed those all together. And I think that one of our designers, every time I stop by and talk to her, Davina Khan, she'll pull out a list and be like, oh, they're working on these standards, and here they're doing this. And it's so neat to see that there's overlapping versus sometimes a thing where you go to one class, you do it, then you feel like you went to the next class, and well, this is very similar. So it's neat that the students are able to really kind of accomplish multiple things. It's a lot like our dual credit programs, where you can get high school credit and college credit for the same work. Same thing there is you're getting credit for multiple subjects all within that. So that's kind of one neat thing that we're blazing trail there. On with that, then Innovation Center modifications plan. So starting in 2021 and then through the fall of 2021 into the spring of 2022, when the school board approved the remodeling to move a machining lab and welding lab over there, along with kind of some STEM engineering labs, making a secure front entrance. And one thing that people may not know too, and I know if you go back to the last school board meeting when Russ Tooman presented the last one on the Innovation Center, he presented, there's a number of different programs there. So sometimes if we talk about Innovation Center, you might think, hey, it's just this group of 7-9 last year and now 7-12 students. But we have a lot of our student and family support offices are there. We have Ram Landing. I'll talk about the Manufacturing Academy. There's lots of different events that go on. We have different cabinet meetings. So it's kind of an all-encompassing building used for a lot of purposes there. So that construction helps out with some of that stuff there. The West Valley High School last year was part of the pilot program of guaranteed admissions process. And that's those of you that have your strategic plan packet. It's on page 7. And that was really neat, where students that have a GPA of most time a 3.0 or above and meet the catered requirements, they are guaranteed admissions into one of 6 state colleges. And we also have an agreement with PLU. So that's kind of neat, where we send some data to them through a data sharing agreement, and they actually reach out to our students and say, hey, we would like you to apply. You already have met our requirements. You just need to then complete the application. So it saves some of that trouble of a student trying to research, trying to figure out, well, can I do this? Do I meet the requirements? They're telling you you've already met the requirements, and save some steps that way. So that was really good. Last year, too, coming out of COVID, we have our JROTC was traveling everywhere, Skills USA, DECA, FFA, our sports medicine students. A lot of them were traveling to regional, state, and even we had a DECA student go to a national event. So that was pretty neat coming out of 2 years where students weren't traveling, doing anything. We had a lot of things that way, too. And as you look, it was on some, let's see which page. Page number 9 in your strategic plan outlines a number of the, actually we'll go back, it's a different one there. There's a number of grants that we were awarded through the CT program, through iGrants, and then a number of other ones. So some there that really paid for a lot of our equipment and some of our upgrades, things that we couldn't have done without those grants. So it's kind of neat to be able to get a number of those. We just started working with Byron Automation and Cheese about getting an industrial robot that normally would have cost us $100,000, but we have a grant to pay for that $100,000 robot to bring into the school, along with conveyor belts, everything else. We can really replicate a lot of our industry around here right inside a classroom. So those are just a few of our initiatives from last year that we're wrapping up. Now I'll jump to some of our new things planned for this year. So this year, starting off, we already have this up and running as the Innovation Center. We have now 7th through 12th grade IT, computer science students, STEM engineering, health science, and then this year, our new program is the 7-9 robotics agri-science program. So it's kind of, all these are really innovative programs. But no, I think the robotics agri-science is one that we're really happy to be starting out and getting that going that way. Over the next, I think our completion date ideally is November 18th. So right before Thanksgiving break. The Innovation Center construction should be complete, and then they'll kind of give us probably the next month or so to hook up IT, get all our equipment, and then by really second semester after Christmas break, the students will be able to come back in and fully utilize our welding, machining, STEM engineering labs, and lots of other things that are part of that. We also are running the Manufacturing Academy, and this is kind of a neat program because this is our stopgap really in looking at students that traditional school on our 6.5 hour day of 6 periods or even Innovation Center model doesn't quite fit with either their work schedule, home life, or something else that just isn't quite matching. So with the Manufacturing Academy, our goal is to catch them before they drop out, and then we try to re-engage them later on, a quarter later or down the road somewhere in our open doors programs and other things. So the Manufacturing Academy is a 3 to 3.5 hour block where they either can be working towards their GED or their high school diploma if they're close on credits. And then a lot of their time is spent doing manufacturing related activities through AJAC. So it's kind of the neat way to help those students as an alternative versus dropping out. So it's a modified schedule, starts at 10 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. and gives them. Right now we have 3 students, but we kind of anticipate as the school year goes on, we have more students enrolling in that. We also have adult students too. So it's kind of a combined class where we'll have students from our traditional setting, under 18, and then we have adult learners too that are engaged in the program. So that's something neat, and that also is happening at the Innovation Center. We're increasing our work-based learning, apprenticeship opportunities. We have 3 students that are going through the apprenticeship program this year, and we'll be increasing more there. We have work-based learning starting out with the high school here in a few weeks, so students will be able to do that as well, along with the Innovation Center. We're increasing our industrially recognized credentials and CT dual credit courses. We're full implementation and promotion of our Ramsey Wildcat program, and that is also, if you're looking at the strategic plan on page 8, we kind of lay that out. There's still some tweaks. That's why you see it says draft. But we have all these courses already set for dual credit agreements with Central or UW, Eastern or Western. What we're doing then is our last final tweaks are just kind of manipulating that so we can fit underneath that 20 credits per year that we're able to fund directly for the students, and try to not overload their schedule too, because that's a lot of the goal is not to try to give them 5 classes or 6 classes at one time if they really have to focus on. So I think this is a great program because it keeps students alternative. It's going to give you in the end almost the same thing as a running start program with the AA. You're going to get all your generals done that you need to for Central, but you can be here in the school. You can be taking other classes. You're not having to drive to YVC, or right now doing online classes through YVC. You don't have, if you don't get the full AA, sometimes there's some parts of transferring classes. So it really helps out. I mean, again, lots of great things with that program, but it's allowing us to kind of package that so the students can know going in that they have these classes done. So we'll see more promotion on that over this year as we really start to work with students and let them know what's available to them and help and counsel them through the process. So that's kind of one of the neat things going on. New West Valley Future. So part of that then is trying to we're working with Field Group, and next week we're going to have high school admin and counselors go to Field Group, and we're actually kind of trying to update. We have the Futures website that's just CTE. We're trying to kind of package all our pathways, all our opportunities, all the courses into this. So students can start to see, well, how did my science class rate? How did my math class rate? How does this get me towards a career path that I want to go in post-secondary? So that's one of the things there that we're also doing. And then we're, again, examining CT enrollment data, developing plan of action. That's kind of a continuing just thing as we're looking at how students move between buildings or different programs that way. So those are some of our initiatives that are coming up over the next year. As we see, we got a lot going on. I think that's one of the neat things about this district is we're never standing still. We're always trying to keep going, but we do it good with a nice foundation too as well. It isn't where we're trying to grab and there's no foundation. We really developed a lot of it. And as the high school, what's best for kids, a lot of it is how do we create opportunities that are best for kids, and then answering that, why is this best for kids? What can we do for them as well? So before we move into our next part of lifelong learning, if this board has any questions on the strategic plan, there's a lot of information in it. I talk fast, but it'd probably take me a few hours to go through all this. Yes.
Specifically, the promotion of the program that we're just talking about, helping students know about this, and what specifically are we doing with the students, but then also, I think as important with the parents, so that they know what's going on, and when does that, it's kind of a multi-part question, I'm sorry. And when does that start? When does that promotion start?
Yep. So our goal we already kind of last year started a little bit with some updates to the website, but now with going through and adding some more information, as we tweak this over the next month or two, this draft, then getting into before Christmas time, get this also people can see it. And then as we look towards course registration in March, we'll have this information out. What I'd like to do too is hold parent and student information nights to help get this information. Because I think, as you're saying, that's something we can really start to focus on. How do we get the information to parents and students as well? So how do we get that in, whether it be Zoom, through our different services here, and in-person meetings to really get that out? I think through Ramstrong as well.
Jed, as students come to the mid-level campus now, at sixth grade, we start the Zello program
Yep.
in sixth grade. And that kind of is the beginning of the education of the career pathway program that we have. It goes all the way through the high school.
Yep, and I think that with our website too, we're incorporating, which is really neat, the Ram to Wildcat and the different career pathways. So if you start looking at, I want to do a health science, I want to go into medicine, what you can do is you can start to see how your classes would be in the Ram to Wildcat CHS programs, along with some of our health science, our sports med classes. So we're trying to, instead of looking at academics and career, really what we're doing over the next 6 months to 9 months is really trying to bridge those. So you're seeing them both together as both those things will get me to where I want to be versus looking at as I either focus on career or college, but not both of them. So you're right. There's some things that we're going to do, really working with getting that information to students and then also to parents.
What are your enrollment numbers at right now?
Our enrollment for CTE, we were right around 640. So it's an increase from last year, actually about 70 FTE across the board. So good numbers. The Innovation Center, last year we were around about 80. Now we're at 166 students, I think, as of count.
And what's the projected growth?
Projected growth, if we were to fill up everything with 32 students, once we get through everything, obviously we'd be 220. And a lot of those seniors, then our goal would be is they'd be out half the day working. So that would be with those 4 programs full.
And what's the plan for expansion of programs that you're going to have then?
Right now, next year will be 10-12 ag robotics. Robotics ag will be our next one. And that'll probably be our only, for next year, that'll be only one, because we'll focus a lot on the master-based learning and how we incorporate those. Because that's one of the parts is really making sure that our seniors, they're getting the technical education, but we also need to make sure we're getting the math and the social studies embedded in those classes. So we haven't quite looked at or projected too much in the future as a 5th program and different things. A lot of it is just kind of learning with our local economy, meeting with the high school, because it's a lot of our stuff is a blend between high school and Innovation Center. We don't want to offer duplicate programs. So how do we work between those 2 buildings to best balance and provide opportunities for our students that there is, employment and, post-secondary opportunities.
And to balance that, are kids going back and forth from campus to campus?
Right now they don't, because of the systems and the models, the way they're learning. So it may be an option in the future. We haven't quite looked at that, but there is some difference when you do master-based learning versus Carnegie units where it's seat time. It does make it a little more difficult to try to blend back and forth between those 2 units. So I'm not going to say that we'll never do that, but right now it's one of those focusing on master-based learning. It gets to be a little more complicated when you're spreading your algebra out throughout the day versus just in a 55-minute block.
Is it easier to transfer from the high school to the Innovation Center than from the Innovation Center to the high school?
No, I'd say that it's, they're 2 different models. So really I'd say, not looking at the transfer, but the type of learning opportunity you want, and that both programs have great opportunities for students. So, the high school has a lot of things that the Innovation Center doesn't offer, and the Innovation Center has different opportunities that the high school doesn't offer. So I think that's our, kind of getting back to the questions. How do we really do a balance? We offer the best for every student here possible and do that. So it's a delicate balance, but I think that we're doing it between the, Russ Tuman, Ben McMurray, the different administration staff here throughout, the teachers, they're doing a good job of working for that balance.
Do you have a dedicated counselor down there that's aware of the different pathways and maybe some of the intricacies that would happen with a kid that does transfer?
Yep, we're working on that. I was working. Jeff Stewart is our counselor there, and that's been a lot of our time lately as students are coming from, because this year, especially their 10-12 programs, a lot of students were coming from the high school over there, so they had these credits. So then how do the credits match and where you plug them in? She's done some really neat things as far as documenting that. We'll continue to do that part. So it's a good process. Yes.
Jed, on the Ram to Wildcat, I wrote that letter to the editor that was being published. It was nice. I really give a shout out and credit to our teachers who have worked to align our curriculum with the college curriculum, and then our administration. So just the work of the high school administration to work with Central, primarily in Central Washington University. Can you talk just a little more about like how were we able to get this into place so that all of the prereqs before you go into your major are done here on this campus? The student could graduate from West Valley High School and go directly into their major at Central.
Yeah.
Like, what were some of the things, the pieces of the puzzle that need to get into place for the final random Wildcat to be unveiled and promoted?
So it's kind of been I'd say a 4 to almost 5-year process from when we were offering some CHS classes, but there wasn't that connection through all of them. And then it started to be where high school administration, Shelly O'Neill, Chris Nesmith, high school counselors, and some of the CHS teachers kind of started working together. They worked with Central. We have some documents have, color coded where, all right, we offer this one. Oh, maybe we can offer this one, different things. COVID kind of slowed us down a little bit on that. But then coming back last year after COVID, it was bringing Central in. So we had 3-4 people from Central come down. We walked through all their CHS offerings of things that we had. Also, then Central has a nice framework of what you need to accomplish in your first year at Central through all your gen eds. So it has different pathways. We have rows and columns, and you need to hit so many out of each one. You need to hit one class out of each row, and then you need to do at least 3 in a column coming down. So what we could do nicely is look at our course offers, go, oh, this is here, this is here. So you just kind of highlight going through, and then we realize, oh, we actually are offering all these. And there's just maybe 1 or 2 that we need to tweak or add to, or look at an alignment for. So, but a lot of it's, we have really good CHS teachers, and a lot of that part is them having master's degrees and other things that allow them to teach those courses, whether it be at Central, we have a few at Western, and a few other UW and some other places. But really, it's a lot of the work the teachers going through. And this past summer, all of them did a course at Central over a day, either going there or online. Our counseling department doing a great job of trying to make sure that everything's aligned. How do we offer that? I was just talking to Jeff Weeks, which is one of the teachers that teaches some of the courses. We were emailing back and forth. He's talking about how they really looked at like when students are mature and ready, because the part is we don't want to offer these and then all of a sudden, oh, we set you up for failure now grading or different things. So he really looked at, hey, if second semester junior year, we offer one course, and then first semester senior year, we offer another one. So if there's a little senior slide, it doesn't impact their transcripts and other things. So I think a lot of our instructors have done a great job of putting that. So it's been an effort of a lot of people going together and then kind of finalizing some things at Central. But Central's been really happy to work with us on this program. And really, once we get it all set, there's no reason the other schools probably won't duplicate it, because it's a good thing that we're offering. ESD actually has come on board recently, and they're doing a lot of things that are transitions between when a student graduates here and then goes to Central. You have those few months in the summer. So they're starting to put together some activities, even during the school year, to get students from West Valley, Ike, Davis, other places together at some events so they know somebody. So when you go off to college, it's not, oh, I don't know anybody. Pretty soon you're like, oh, I recognize this person from this event or this person from this event. And they're looking at doing some things where actually they have somebody from our area up there at Central the first week of school. So if you do have a question, you go to this person, they say, oh yeah, I know your counselor at the school. I can help get you that information. So it's really neat how our community of the Yakima Valley is coming together on some of these things. Again, a lot with now that Shelly O'Neill's moved to ESD. I'll give a shout out to her because she's really helping Mark and Hugo put a lot of things together, but neat things that are really helping our students. So it's not you graduate here and you take a big leap there. It's just one little step. And I think this Ramsey Wildcat is, you're doing a lot of those steps in here with support of teachers and support of other things. So good program.
Can you speak a little bit on your 6th to 8th graders that are getting high school credit during those years, what the rest of their high school years looks like?
So as far as you mean,
so if kids are getting high school credit when they're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Oh, you mean just like with algebra? So we have 7th and 8th grade, they
So
can do algebra and geometry.
Their high school years look like 9 through 12 going through the Innovation Center.
Oh, at the Innovation, let's see. So at the Innovation Center, they could get their algebra. They could, usually in 8th grade, they could get some college credits or some up, not college, but high school credits when they're at. So it does, let's say a student can advance just like they can with our algebra and geometry at the junior high. That does allow them with math course to take, like my son was one, took algebra in 7th grade, geometry in 8th grade, and then was able to take, he actually took a college algebra course during COVID through ASU during his freshman year. Last year took pre-calc, now he's in calc right now. So it gives them an opportunity to do that or pursue some other avenues. I know some that are in statistics right now because they didn't want to take calc, or even some students that we just had one present at our opening day kickoff and talked about, I want to do better in pre-calc. So now I'm able to retake that course because I have some time and I have the support of my teachers. Gave a shout out to Mr. Frula and how they were able to get some extra support from him by taking the course over again to increase their learning and knowledge. So it does help give them a foot up. A lot of it though is us working on the support. So we're not pushing a kid beyond what they're able to do, but we're helping give them the opportunities that, hey, if you're ready, let's give you the opportunity. But if you're not ready, how do we maybe give you a little nudge and give you those supports? I think High School Innovation Center, a lot of our buildings, middle-level campus, have done a great job of finding little gaps and able to support those things. And then it does allow us, like work-based learning, as a student checks off some of those required courses, then they're able to their senior year
That's
do
kind
some
of what I was
apprenticeships and work-based
Are
learning.
they
So-
able to do a little bit more of that as their?
Yep. So it provides them some freedom to do some of those things, or even some other elective courses that they maybe couldn't have taken if they're just worried about trying to meet their requirements. So on to our next thing, Portrait of a Lifelong Learner. This is a really neat thing. We started to hear about it a little bit last year. The State Board of Education, some other groups started to kind of look at it, but really I think it's a neat thing because we've heard about soft skills. We've heard about how students need these competencies. You drive by schools and everybody's got words on their signs that say something. And as we start to move towards standards-based grading, a lot of us, well, all right, we're measuring standards in math and English, but how do we measure those other skills, or how do we identify what other skills we want to have the students to have? I was just down at Stein's Ace today, and I said, well, if you're looking for an applicant, you probably are asking for what was your math test score from a year ago. You want to know, can they collaborate? Can they communicate with customers? Can they troubleshoot and try to find something if they don't know what it is? So that's really what's leading this project is, how do we, as we move towards standards-based grading, do things, how do we really identify what other skills and how do we measure those other skills that we want students to go to or have? So we look at a few more things in our why. This project, we're looking to engage community, educators, and students to see what is needed for our children to be successful in the future. So we're not just measuring, and that's kind of a year and a half ago in my interview, I was like, we can't just measure success by what a student says when they walk across the stage. We got to see when you're 25, when you're 30, how successful are you? What's your contribution to our community? What are you doing? How did you, not only the enjoyment, but yet what does it bring forward? Because if everybody just falls off the stage and, hey, you graduated, but that's it. No, and I think West Valley's done a great job of really building up. But I think we also see that with, people that are at board meetings, our number of hires that are West Valley grads that are successful that come back into here, and just our community in general. So we're looking to create a common language, unifying district initiatives. So we have a lot of different things. Last year, equity and inclusion. We talked about SEL. We talked about this year, UDL. These things are going to help bind that parts together, because as we start to look at these competencies, we say, oh, well, this fits right into this competency, UDL, equity, SEL, all these things are right tied into these different things. So it really gives us a measurement for those things beyond those just being buzzwords. We'll build a support and parameters to guide our future work. So I'll get into that. I already kind of hit on the next one. And then really developing a guiding vision for West Valley School District. And if you look back at our mission, this work fits right in with our mission, but this is some of the substance and the different things behind. So we got the mission, and now this is going to be like all that structure and everything that fits behind our mission. So actually it was a really good lead up for us. The work is, what we'll do is we're putting together a design team. So that's one aspect of helping to identify these competencies. And our design team is members of the community. And actually I have some sheets up here. So those of you that are here tonight, or those who are listening on YouTube, you can contact me and I can get you, or those that are here tonight, I have a sheet. You can sign up to be part of our design team. So again, we're really looking at this to be a community event, not just a West Valley teachers or administrators say this is what students need. We want the community, because after graduation, these students are out in the community. And a lot of you as parents or grandparents, other people, you're seeing these things. And really, we want this to be, what do we want in our students? What do parents want in their students when they're 20, 30, 40? What does a business employer want in our employees, different things? So we're looking for a design team of all the different people there. We're going to do some surveys. So we're going to have a staff and student survey that we'll be sending out. I'll talk more about that. And we also have a leadership team of some school administrators that are really helping guide this work and helping put these parts into place. So what our design team will do is, the first thing is we're going to be meeting next Tuesday, September 20th. That design team will meet and they'll really start to examine how the world has changed and the implications for our students. That's going to be a neat meeting. It's actually going to be led by a group that's going to zoom in, but really looking at how the world is different. I think we were talking about that with the innovation centers. I go to Rosars and it's self-checkouts, Walmart self-checkouts. You go to McDonald's self-checkouts. You're talking more about drone delivery, in our local fruit industry, all the automation, the different things, self-driving car, all the different things that, how do we get our students? How do we start to look for those competencies? What do our students need to be able to compete and work in a world that way? That's different than maybe 30 years ago or 40 years ago, or even right now, it's going to be different in 10 years. Just crazy. So that meeting will really be like setting the ground. They'll be like setting the stage of this is kind of what the world is. We're going to watch some videos, talk as a group. That'll be a really neat one. And then we have in October and then November 1st is the actual design team meeting. But we'll start to look at those competencies. So we'll start to break apart 30 different competencies, identify which things do we really think in our community our students need. And all the competencies will be good, but we're going to really start to break down in smaller groups and what do we think we need. And that's along with staff and student surveys. Then on the third meeting, December 6th, we'll then look at those competencies we identified as the main 5 to 7. And what we'll do is we'll try to identify, so how do we really describe what that is? So if somebody says collaboration, what does collaboration mean? I think this is the part that we really like about the project is it's getting you more than just some bumper sticker word or word that you put up on a wall or a word that you put on a sign. What does that really mean? And then our last meeting, they'll be really trying to present those ideas, and that'll be February 7th, presenting what those competencies are really to the public and getting that ready. So here's some examples of ones at different schools or ones they have. So one part of it, this is just a small part, is kind of the promotional side of identifying it. But we're not stopping there. And I think that's the great part for me. And I think our district is beyond just identifying what it is. That's great. But now our next steps are looking at in the spring, how do different building levels examine those things? Let's say it was collaboration. How does an elementary school examine collaboration and start to look at how that fits in with what they can do? What competencies are they teaching and what can they do with that? Then over the next few years, it's really looking at how do we work that into lessons plans? How do we teach that during the day? What does that look like? And we're doing a lot of it we're already doing, but how do we identify that? And how do we tell students at different levels that they're meeting those benchmarks? So it isn't, oh, you get to graduation, oh, we hope you met it. How in kindergarten, how at the middle school, how at the junior high, how at the innovation center, how at the high school are you meeting these things? What kind of projects, what kind of activities? And it pulls in advisory, pulls in some of the equity inclusion, pulls in the social emotional learning, all the different things, but ties that to words that we can get behind. Collaboration, communication, ingenuity, whatever the competencies pick, these are things like, oh, all these things are needed. So that's the neat part. Also looking at measurements again, more achievements there, looking at how do we set these as milestones? How do we put these almost as we're looking at standards-based grading, how do we put these as a grade? Or not a grade, but how do we mark these off? So a student can know, yes, I met that, or oh, I'm almost there, but not yet. And as I'm doing this assignment in a group, how do I show collaboration with my group? So it adds more focus than just, well, group work, just work together with a group and hopefully do it. Now we know what collaboration is. And then looking at 2023 and even beyond is continuing to work with our community partners. So how do we bring back in focus groups? If we're going to talk about collaboration, how do we bring back in our business employers? And really, what do you see collaboration as a business? How do we replicate that in our classroom? How do we, and that fits back to our work-based learning, apprenticeships, different things we're doing that way. And then we can start to look at what are portraits of an educator, portraits of an administrator? So how do we start to build this in whole piece? So this is not just we get a few catchwords and we're done. This is a few year out initiative that I think fits in with our UDL. A lot of things we've been doing and are doing, they attach right onto this. So those are some things. Again, the meetings are coming up. The first one again next week from 6:30 to 9 right here in the library. It's going to be a really engaging meeting. And we saw some of the video clips from it. It's just like, wow, you hear about the things, but then, oh, I didn't really realize that we're at this point. And it's hard sometimes to see as you drive by these businesses we have in our community that are doing these innovative things, but there's walls there, so you don't see it. So that's going to be the neat part to really open our eyes that this stuff is out there and it's ready. And this is what our students are going in, especially if I think about a kindergartner right now, what the world is going to be like in 12, 13 years. It's going to be crazy. So, yep, next meeting. So if you want more information, I have that. There's a board. If you got questions on this, I could go on for hours. So
You've done a good job. What the heck? Age limitation.
Age limitation. Hey, good question.
Like, you know, special needs, some of them, they hit 21 years old and their resources drop off drastically. Do we have any kind of concern about that with this program? Or are they done at 21? I mean, they can stay in school till then.
For which prefer, like, working on this work or working
Right.
with?
Working on this one, because if, you know, they're not gonna go beyond 21 in the high school.
No, but I think I'm trying to,
That's a good
Well,
suggestion,
yeah.
Mike, to reach out to Department of
Oh,
Vocational
yeah.
Rehabilitation and have them be at the table as well. So they're understanding, here's what we're working on for a pipeline, and then we can hand off to the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, because that's what students after 21 would have resources for.
yeah, now I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's good. Now with our AJAC partnership, they're now able to administer some of those services there. And we have a few students that right now are getting some services on resume and other things. So I think that's a good point, is to keep reaching out as we keep building these partnerships with the high school innovation center and beyond. How do we keep this going? And I think that's the neat thing, again, with this vision of the school and stuff that Minerva's done, and then with some of our adult, with Aaron Lee and Davina Khan and a lot of the students working on Microsoft Office certifications for parents and stuff, is there's a lot of neat things that we'll be able to do with our community and adults.
I asked that question because, you know, it's great, and from what I've heard and what I've seen, you build a great foundation. But if you throw them out in the work world without a house on top of it, that's gonna not be very productive.
No, that's good. So I think, again, that's the neat thing about the district, is we don't let, that's why we, Dr. Finch really, said that we don't just call this Porch of a Graduate, because our focus is, how do we get maybe parents back in some welding, class evening? How do we do different things? How do we do different opportunities computer wise and different things through either this building innovation, any of our other buildings? I think, STEAM stuff that Wyatt Howell's doing, how do we bring in even younger kids that aren't in school yet into different opportunities? Well, if anybody's got questions afterwards, I'm glad to stick around and answer any questions. And then if any of you in the audience,
Great.
I have some sheets for you. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Jed.
Yep.
Yeah. And Steffi, you have that sign in? Oh, okay.
Thank you. All right, thank you for that very fine presentation. We will go ahead and move on to public comment of non-discussion agenda items. And it looks like we have one person who would like to speak. Is it Carol Blevins?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just have, number one, I wanted to make a compliment and a thank you for Mr. Hartman, the principal at Atom Valley. That's where my two little girls go. And he is wonderful. He always goes and gets, when I ask him something, he goes and he gets the information. And then he comes back very swiftly and tells me the information that I've asked. So I'm very thankful for him. And then the other thing that I would like to ask for a response from is a question that I have. And is it true that the federal government is threatening to pull our children's federal lunch money or meal money if critical race theory teaching and gender identity or equity inclusion, what it's called different things, are not included in our curriculum? And if so, how much of the budget, our budget, does that affect? So that's just my question tonight. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I will check to see if there's anybody participating online with questions. None? All right. Sure, go ahead.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I had two.
Okay.
Two different topics. I'm sorry, I didn't need to sign in. Hi, I'm Raquel Martinez. My daughter goes to the, mid-level campus. So she goes between the middle school and the junior high, 3 periods at one, 3 at the other. My question is about the free lunches that they're getting this year. And I know they've done this last year as well for free lunches. But during the time of COVID, when it was a concern that they had enough room to sit between themselves and not sitting on top of each other, there was 3 lunches. And now we've gone back to 2 lunches at both schools. So my daughter's saying because there's free lunches, everyone's getting hot lunch. Well, everyone's choosing to go get a hot lunch, which is fine and great. And I think that's great. The issue is she's saying it's taking over 10 minutes to get through the lunch line. So just thinking outside the box, I'm just asking, and I know that things change and we make decisions. When it was important that they had more room, they had 3 lunches. We made it work with classroom schedules. It seemed to work with the time. I'm just wondering, is there other solutions we can think about so that they can all get through and they can all get a lunch? My kid right now is choosing not to go through the lunch line. It's just taking way too long. She eats a couple crackers, a couple snacks, and then goes to sports practice with no lunch. So I pack her as much as I can, but that's just her choice. I was just going to ask about that and then think, is there other things we can think outside the box, just other suggestions too? If any of you have stayed at a hotel lately, they don't do morning breakfast. They hand you a sack lunch. Can we pre-pack some of the lunches, pre-packed with everything in it? The sandwich, the fruit, the milk, take it, grab one, walk out. Kids will be in and out a lot quicker. I don't know if it's an option, but it seems like could be. So that was my first question about lunches, considering third lunch or packing some of them up. Second question was about the junior high, the lockers. So the lockers aren't being used. I've asked about it because my kid's playing sports. I sent an email to some of you. It's sort of getting addressed right now. They tell me they're working on it. Right now, the kids that are playing sports, just so that everyone understands the issue, any kids that are playing sports right now are carrying 2 backpacks around. Or 3. So they're not allowed to use the locker at all for their school backpack. Now they're playing volleyball, cross country, soccer, whatever. They're carrying their clothes for practice right after school. They have no lockers to use. So I've asked the question what's happening. They're working on that. They say they're thinking about giving them a PE locker that they can maybe keep, the small little square ones, not the big, tall, long ones that are on the wall, stuck to the wall, empty, but maybe the little square one, maybe. It's in the air, hoping on that. But just asking the question of, I feel like when these decisions get made, us as the community don't understand it. We weren't talked to about it. Now our kids are there when your kids get there and we don't know the answers. I've had several parents ask me, well, I didn't know they weren't allowed to use the lockers. Why? Just can we respond back to why they're not using the lockers? There's things that I think the kids, winter's coming up. Can they put a jacket? Most of the kids at the school choose not to wear a winter coat because they don't want to carry it between every class. So, and then I'm just going to say for women, sometimes they want a little spot where they can keep some tampons and pads. I'm going to say it. There should be a locker they could go to, not have to carry that around all day. So just an idea. Would love to hear the reasons why those lockers are not being used. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comments. And hopefully at the next meeting, we'll have some answers for you. All right. If there are no other comments, no one else online, we'll go ahead and move on. Action items number 8, approval of minutes. If anyone would like to make a motion for the approval of minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. We have a motion to approve the minutes for the August 23rd, 2022 board meeting. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have approval of travel requests. There are quite a few of them, looks like. So we can either, if someone has a question about any one of them, we can pull some out or we can take them all together. Anyone has a preference?
Just note, we've added a number 8 for Richard Pryor's trip and a number 9 for Jill O'Brien and the volleyball team.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. So this would include those.
Correct.
If there are no questions or discussion, would someone care to make a motion?
I move to approve the travel requests 1 through 9.
All right, we have a motion. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the travel request itemized, there's 1 through 9. Signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll go on to item C, CTE funding future strategic plan 2021 to 2023. Any questions, comments?
Is this separate of the
I was
Is
just
this
looking.
separate of the resolution?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We need to approve the plan first and then the resolution
Got
after
it.
the plan's
Yeah.
been approved.
All right. I'll
So-
move to approve the CTE Future Strategic Plan for 21 through 23 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Thorner. So we'll go ahead and vote since we have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we will go on to item D, approval of resolution, career and technical education approval. Again, anyone have any particular questions or would like to go ahead and make a motion?
I move to approve resolution 2209-748.
Okay, we have a motion. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of approval of resolution 22-09-748, career and technical education program approval, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 9, items arising. Anyone have anything there?
Yeah, I have one. In that, last week before, I don't know, I was at Summit View doing a tour. And I tried to use my cell phone. It didn't work. I couldn't get any service going through the building. And when I got to the office, I talked to the Eva, our
Principal.
administrator and principal, and she said that's very common. They don't, a lot of times in the building, there's quite a few dead spots, and they can't communicate with each other. Now, we give stipends for cell phones, and a lot of it was for safety and all of that with the kids. Well, if the darn things don't work in the building and they have to walk to a specific area before they can get any kind of service, then I was under the impression that we had, or were in the process of allocating certain funds to both schools for finalizing items that come up and concerns to the tune of about $1.5 million per building, those two schools. I think it is a real safety concern that they don't have access to 911 and those things throughout the building. And, I'm just bringing it to the attention of the rest of the board that I, for one, feel that it's an absolute necessity that we get on the ball and release those funds so that we can get it done. And I was told that it was to the tune of about $150,000 per building, for each building. Well, that's 10% of what we were talking about allocating to each building. But I think it's way more important than to me, that's a minimal cost for the safety that's involved for any kind of an emergency that arises within the structure.
My understanding is our Assistant Superintendent, Joe Conley, has been working on this issue. And I'll make sure that in our next board meeting, the superintendent report will give you an update on the progress on that, okay?
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else?
I might also suggest that as part of that report, we received some word about the communications in the school, that we're not just relying on cell phones to call 911 in the event of emergency, rather than put out there that that's the only way that we can communicate with emergency services. We probably should have a report about that, so that everybody's clear about that as well. That'd just be a suggestion.
Yeah, certainly. Our IT department, led by Jeremy Cox, who was here earlier this evening, has upgraded some of the safety features that we have on our phone systems, so we can provide information about that as well.
That's true. And I understand, what Mr. Thorner is talking about. And I also considered that when I brought it up, and if we allocate the funds to Apple Valley and Summit View, because they both have the same problem. I went to Apple Valley and checked with them too.
Correct.
And those, if we did that, we're still in line with the philosophy of some of the board members in that those funds will be spent on those two schools. And there's others are going to be clamoring for the same thing. And that's not what we're saying, because that's not what we promised everybody and said we would do. But we did say we would allocate the funds to finish those two schools until they were complete. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well, that's a good point. We should double check, make sure that, we have access at our other schools as needed. And, we have dedicated funds in capital projects from the past, not some of you in Apple Valley projects, but just a capital project fund. So we can take a look at that. We want to make sure safety is the most important thing on our campuses. We'll make sure we do a review of that. I appreciate you bringing that forward.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other issues?
Yeah, one other item. Dr. Finch, remind me, don't we take the first count of students? I want to say that's the first Friday in September. Am I remembering that right?
The state actually identifies the first count. It was September 7th, and we'll have that enrollment report in the next board meeting.
Perfect.
Under our different reports that we have, we'll have an enrollment report for the first count.
That was my question. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Can you tell us just a real quick eyeball? How's it look at the first week?
Across the board, we are looking that there were no big misses that we had. We had shared that 2 years ago, 25% of our kindergarten students that we had projected didn't show up. And the following year, last year, we thought at first grade they would be coming back, and we had quite a miss at that first grade. They didn't come back. So we had a lower estimate this year for second grade, and we're pleased to say that we have more students in second grade than we projected now. So that's a good thing. It's better to be in that place where we have a little more students than projected. And so across the board, we were pretty close on our projections, but there were no misses like we've had in the past. So I'm really pleased about that.
That brings up another topic, I guess, from Facebook. The buses, have we balanced out loads on buses? Somebody was complaining about that. And the first week I know is a hell week for the bus drivers and stuff. But now that we've been in school, have we balanced out buses so that they're not sitting forward to a seat and stuff?
Yes, you're exactly right. The first week, Jamie Schmidt, our transportation director, was working on doing that balancing. We're at the point now where I believe she told me there's no more than 50 students on the bus, and that's not at capacity. So there's still room on some of the buses. Some are quite full, but none are over capacity.
Aren't most of our buses 84? Or no?
I'm sorry, I actually don't have the number there.
All right. Anyone else? I actually have something, question, maybe Dr. Finch or any of the other board members who've been around longer than me might know. So as my daughter got ready to return to high school, one of the things that came up is that while we're eliminating so many of the fees like pay to play, and we are funding the lunches, what's the history on why we are charging $35 to park for the high school students? I was just curious about that. Apparently we've been paying it all these years and I didn't know it. So can somebody share the history why we are charging students for that?
Yeah, that's basically money that helps to generate ASB and activities on campus. So there is a charge, and we have not had requests necessarily to eliminate that.
Have we ever considered eliminating, or have we looked at that in any detail? I mean, compared to what it might be generating, considering we are trying to cut back on some of the expenses for students?
Yes, I mean, we have worked closely with the ASB because, of the lost revenue that they've had through all the various, there was that legislation that had a huge impact to the revenue for the ASB. So we've been working on that. We could get exact numbers for you if you'd like to see, the amount that we're have changed in helping to supplement the ASB budget, and then look at the amount that is generated from the parking fees. We can look at that.
It would be nice to take a look at that, just so we know what we're doing with that, and maybe even see if it's still something we should do. And if it is, it is. If it's not, maybe, since we are kind of cutting back on in other areas, this might be something to consider. So thought I would bring it up. Anybody else have anything? All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Finch?
I included that in writing, and as I had reported in the response to public comment, we also included a copy of the signed letter that is being sent to our state legislators. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Item number 11, board reports, board development.
I have one. I'm really proud of the school board. We've been working, a small group has been working on universal design and learning for a couple of years, and we have it in operation in some of our schools in a beginning stages, and the district has bought into it all the way through. This year the focus is on UDL. We had a Zoom meeting last week for an hour, 5:30 to 6:30 one night last week, where Katie Novak, who's in charge of the UDL project that we're in for the state of Washington, and they held a meeting for school board members on Zoom, and 5:30 to 6:30 one night. And I think over 30 school districts in the state of Washington are involved with this. And the only district where all 5 school board members were in attendance for that hour was West Valley. And I really thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you for reminding everyone about that, Mr. Jager. All right, anyone else on board development, board reports?
I'll just share that, our staff was really impressed to have all board members there, and it really shows this alignment from the boardroom to the classroom. So really do appreciate all 5 board members participating in that professional development. I'd like to thank you.
Thank you. If there is nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It is
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. On ahead. Thank you, Mr. Garner. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight.